name is Tu Nguyen, nutritionist with Giant. In our second class of our Delicious Discovery series, we are talking hydroponics. We're gonna learn what it is and what it means. In this class, we're also going to learn how to regrow kitchen scraps. And we're gonna make a tasty recipe using some of our hydroponic ingredients. Now, if you missed our first class where we talked about freezing point and we made homemade frozen yogurt, no worries. That class is also recorded, so make sure you check that out. In this recorded class, I'm going to ask you some questions to get our minds thinking. Now, I know I can't hear you, but feel free to just shout out your answers, or you can pause the video and have a discussion with the people around you. But before we begin our class, how many of you know what a nutritionist is? A nutritionist is someone who knows a lot about food and how it keeps us healthy. We also know a little bit of food science too, which is super cool because we learn how foods are made and things that affect it. So not only do we know what foods keep our bodies healthy, we also know why they keep us healthy. And this is such a fun job because I get to interact with so many different people, like all of you today. So to begin our class, let's think about some things. How many of you have heard of the word hydroponics before? Do you have any guesses on what that word means? Well, we're about to find out. So go ahead, grab an adult, grab your materials and your thinking caps, and let's get started. So for today's class, we're first going to go through all the materials that we need for our delicious discovery. Then we're going to learn what a hydroponic garden is, and we're going to take a look inside a hydroponic farm. Then it's delicious discoveries time. We're going to do a taste test. We're going to start our own hydroponic gardens. Then we're going to make that tasty recipe. And then lastly, we're gonna wrap up this lesson with an overview of everything we've learned. Now, before we begin, I do have a couple questions for you to consider throughout this lesson. So feel free to pause the video, write down your questions and circle those answers. Or you can feel free to just shout out your answers. At the end of the lesson, we're gonna revisit these same questions to see how much we've learned. So I have 4 questions for you. Are you ready? Question number 1. What does hydroponics mean? A, growing plants without soil or dirt. B, growing plants without water. C, growing plants without light. Or D, growing plants without air. Question number 2. What are some benefits of growing hydroponically? A, conserves more soil. B, takes up less space. C, can grow all year round. Or D, all of the above. Question number 3. Why are vegetables good for our body? A, they have vitamins and minerals. B, they have fiber. C, they have water. Or D, all the above. And question number 4, how much of our plate should be filled with vegetables and fruit? A, a quarter of the plate. B, half of the plate. C, the whole plate. Or D, none of the plate. So put your answers aside. We'll get back to it at the end of the class. So today we are going to do a taste test of traditionally grown romaine lettuce versus lettuce grown by Bowery Farming. Now, it's important that we do this taste testing while we talk about hydroponics. So be patient and don't taste it yet, okay? So let's go ahead and see what we need for our delicious discovery. Bowery Farming lettuce and basil, romaine lettuce, mint leaves, a plum tomato, some shredded carrots, summer roll wrappers, hoisin sauce, lime juice, shredded chicken, or you can also use shrimp, eggs, or tofu for your protein, a jar or a bowl, something to dip the wrappers in, like a pot or a pan, and other items that you can hydroponically grow. So you can do an avocado or maybe some green onion. When you think about farming, what comes to mind? For me, I think of those big rolling fields, those tall corn stalks swaying in the wind, maybe even some cows roaming around. And while this can still be true, many aspects of farming in the 21st century has changed and evolved drastically. And one of those changes is hydroponic farming. So what does hydroponics mean? Now remember, this is one of those quiz questions, so be sure to pay attention. Does anyone want to share what they think hydroponics means? Well, hydro means water and panos means labor. So simply put, hydroponics means growing without soil. Isn't that crazy? I know for me, growing up, I always thought that plants needed soil in order to grow. But really, if plants get enough water, light, and nutrients, they can grow without soil. So do you think that we can grow plants inside a building? Yes, we can. And this is exactly what our friends at Bowery Farming are doing. They have an indoor farm in Maryland, close to Baltimore. This is what it looks like. Does this look like your traditional farm? Probably not. And that's because they are growing hydroponically, without soil. They're able to grow this delicious vegetables and herbs without soil. So that brings us to our next question. Why is growing plants without soil good for our planet? There are so many people living on our planet, right? That's a lot of people and a lot of mouths to feed. Our Earth simply does not have enough land to grow enough food to feed all of the people. Hydroponic farming doesn't rely on soil. It saves that soil for other purposes, but we can still grow food. We don't have to rely on the amount of soil to grow all the food that we want. Is there something else that you notice about how the plants are growing in this picture? They're growing vertically, right? They're growing up on shelves. Remember how I said our Earth doesn't have enough land? Well, because these vegetables don't need to be put in soil, they don't need to be spread out. They can grow up, and this saves land. What are some other benefits of hydroponic gardening? Well, right now, the weather is warm, right? But what happens in the winter? It gets cold. Now, if it gets cold and plants are growing outside, it can die, right? That's the benefit of hydroponic gardening. Because our vegetables are grown indoors, we can control the temperature and make sure that it doesn't get cold, and so it can grow all year round. Can you think of any more benefits of hydroponic gardening or growing plants indoors? Well, you don't need to worry about bugs, so you don't need to use pesticides. You can also recycle water, and you can bring food to areas that aren't close to grocery stores. Okay, now that we got that covered, let's get to our delicious discovery. It's taste testing time. So you have in front of you lettuce that has been grown hydroponically by our friends at Bowery Farming. You also have lettuce that has been grown traditionally. So now we are going to do the taste test. So go ahead and pull a leaf off of your traditionally grown lettuce and make sure you give it a wash before you try it. You actually don't need to wash your lettuce from Bowery Farming because it's already washed. But before we taste it, do you think that the hydroponic growing changes the flavor at all? Okay, go ahead and try it. Do you taste any differences? Can you describe what you're tasting? Because the lettuce grown indoors is grown in such a tightly controlled environment, so think the temperature, the light, the moisture, and the nutrients that it gets, it doesn't have to go through the same stresses that a typical lettuce grown traditionally has to go through. Think about yourself or think about your parents. When you're feeling stress or upset, or maybe you ate something that made you not feel good, or maybe you didn't get enough sleep, you can't be your best self, right? So the same thing goes for plants. Again, when it's grown in that perfect environment, it's gonna be able to save all of its energy to grow up big, strong, tasty, and have those crispy leaves. Not only does it taste delicious, but it's also great for our bodies. Does anyone know why? Does anyone know what food group lettuce belongs to? This right here is called My Plate. My Plate shows how we should be eating at all of our meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Vegetables and fruit together, they're called produce. And produce is so great for our bodies that it makes up half of our plate. My Plate also shows balanced eating. Balanced eating means we have all the food groups on our plate. Today, we're just going to be talking about fruits and vegetables. But if you want to learn more about all the other food groups and My Plate, be sure to check out our first Delicious Discoveries class. So let's talk about vegetables and how it makes up half our plate. Every time we eat, we want to try to make half of our plates fruits and vegetables. And this is going to be super easy once we make our hydroponic garden in just a little bit. But does anyone know why fruits and vegetables are so good for us? Well, the first reason is that fruits and vegetables are full of vitamins and minerals. Remember how we talked about how plants need something called nutrients? Well, so do we, and those nutrients are vitamins and minerals. They help to keep us nice and strong and healthy. Fruits and vegetables also have fiber, and fiber is great for our bodies because it helps with digestion. It helps us go to the bathroom. It also helps us feeling full so we can stay energized to be able to play and do our homework. And it also keeps our heart healthy. And the last reason is because of water. Vegetables have a lot of water, and we need to drink a lot of water. Can you guess what percentage of our bodies are made of water? 60%. That's more than half. So if our bodies are made up of more than half water, then we need to drink a lot of water. And vegetables can help us get that water. So now that we know all about hydroponics, who wants to grow their own hydroponic garden at home right now? The best part is that we are going to be doing it from our lettuce scraps. And the great thing about this is that it helps to reduce food waste. Do you know what food waste is? Food waste is when we throw away food. Now, this is bad for our planet because when that food that we throw away goes to the trash, it also goes to the landfill. And this isn't good for our planet. So the best thing that we can do, or one of the things that we can do to stop food waste, is to regrow our food scraps so that we can keep on eating it. And we are going to do that today with our traditionally grown lettuce. Okay, so let's go ahead and regrow our lettuce from our lettuce scraps. So it's actually very simple. So first, if you know how to use a knife, great. But if you don't, let's get an adult for this part. So what you want to do is have somebody, maybe your adult, take the knife and we are going to cut the lettuce about 1 inch from the bottom, okay? So we're going to cut it. And then look at all these leaves. Don't throw them away because we need it for our recipe. So just to take those leaves and put them aside, And then you are gonna take your bowl and fill it up with some water. You don't want too much water, just enough water to cover half of this little stump. And then you go ahead and you place it in the water. And guess what? That's it. All you have to do is put it at a window with some light, and in a few days, you are gonna start growing some lettuce. Look at that. Now, I do wanna say that you are not gonna grow as much lettuce as you did from the store, but you are gonna have maybe enough so that you can put it in a salad, you can use it for the recipe that we're gonna make today, or maybe feed it to your pet bunny. So now that you've started your hydroponic garden with your lettuce, what are some other things that you can regrow from kitchen scraps? Here are some of the ones that I did. First, I have green onion right here. All you do is you take the ends and you cut it. You can use the rest in your food, and then you put the rest in a little bit of water, just like you did with the lettuce, and look how tall it'll grow. Another one you can do is your avocado seed. So this one, you take the seed and you put some toothpicks in it so that only the bottom touches the water. And hopefully this will grow into a little avocado tree. What are some other things that we can do to cut down on food waste? Well, one thing that we can do is we can meal plan. So we can make sure that we're only buying the things that we need so that we don't throw other food away that we don't use. Another thing that we can do is make sure we use all of our food before it goes bad. And then maybe it does go bad. Another thing that you can do to cut down on food waste is to compost it. Okay, so now it's time to make our delicious recipe. Today we are making something called summer rolls. Have you tried it before? This is actually a Vietnamese dish. So I grew up making these and eating them. In Vietnamese, they're called gỏi cuống. Can you try saying that? So what is the first thing we have to do before we start cooking? Wash our hands. So go ahead and wash your hands right now. I already did. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna start off with is our rice paper wraps. So this should be a food science class in itself because right now it's hard, it's crunchy, you can't really bend it or move it around, but once you soak it in water, it's going to get soft. So you just need to get something like a pot or a pan that can hold that water, and you just go ahead and dip it in. Let it soak for about 10-15 seconds is perfectly fine. And then you take it out of the water. It still feels kind of hard, that's perfectly fine, but once you put it on your plate, it's gonna start getting soft and then we can roll it. So first, let's start off with our lettuce. So you can use the lettuce that we cut before to make our hydroponic garden. I'm going to use the Bowery lettuce because it's ready and it's super easy. So you just stick the lettuce on, however much you want. And then it's protein time. So I used rotisserie chicken and then shredded it up because it makes it super easy. That rotisserie chicken's already cooked, so you don't need to do much work. But if you want other protein choices, egg is a great choice, tofu and shrimp are also good ones to put in your roll. So go ahead and put your protein in as well. And you want to kind of line it up in a line on the roll, and that makes it easier to roll up. Next, we're gonna take our tomatoes. So I already cut the tomatoes into moon shape, but you want to cut the tomatoes into slices, and then you can put that on. Then our shredded carrots. And then you can put some basil and some mint leaves on it. Okay, now comes the fun part, the rolling part. So my tip is to roll the sides in first and then roll the rest of it. So let me show you. There's no wrong way of doing this, and it does take some practice, but you can do it. So look, now the paper is nice and sticky and easy to move. So just pull in the sides. And then you take it from the top, and then you just roll it. And there you go. You have a summer roll. All you do after that is you just dip it in the sauce and eat it. Great job. Congratulations, we're all done. Not only did you learn some food science today, but you were also able to make a tasty and nutritious snack. But remember, we had questions from the beginning of the class. So let's go ahead and review those questions and see if you've learned something. Question number 1. What does hydroponics mean? A, growing plants without soil or dirt. B, growing plants without water. C, growing plants without light. Or D, growing plants without air. The answer is A, growing plants without soil or dirt. Question number 2. What are some benefits of growing hydroponically? A, conserves more soil. B, takes up less space. C, can grow all year round. Or D, all of the above. The answer is D, all the above. Question number 3. Why are vegetables good for our body? A, they have vitamins and minerals. B, they have fiber. C, they have water. Or D, all the above. D, all the above. And question number 4. How much of our plate should be filled with vegetables and fruit? A, a quarter of the plate. B, half of the plate. C, the whole plate. Or D, none of the plate. B, half of the plate. Great job! Parents and teachers, if you've enjoyed this activity for your kids, make sure you tune in for more upcoming Delicious Discoveries classes. Our next one is going to be exploring why apples brown. And of course, we are going to be making a tasty treat with those apples. Before we go, even though this class is recorded, I would love to see how you and your kids enjoyed this class. So whether it's a picture of your hydroponic garden or a video of your kids enjoying their summer rolls, the first 10 people to post to our Healthy Living by Giant Facebook group will receive a free Delicious Discoveries apron mailed straight to your door. I'm so excited to see what you've all made and how you've enjoyed the class, so be sure to post. For more information, questions, and registration for upcoming Delicious Discoveries classes, visit giantfood.com/nutrition. Thanks!